Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. First of all, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited that you have decided to tune in and to listen to me yap. So, what I want to first say is welcome back to Coffee and Confidence. It is officially episode 16 of the podcast. Slay! My plan is to record this for YouTube and for Spotify. However, I did try to record this yesterday for YouTube and it didn't work. The resolution wasn't happening. So I'm hoping this time is better. But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. If you are a new listener, hello, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, I'm so glad to have you back. My name is Kiba. For those of you that don't know me, this is obviously my podcast. Myself, I am a bodybuilder, online coach, and I also do currently have a full-time job. However, if you watched the last YouTube, you'll know that soon it's reducing to part-time. I'm so excited. But I don't have too much news for you guys this week. I suppose this episode is my big news, and it's something that I've thought about a lot. I've also thought a lot about whether I wanted to talk about it, and I'll get into all the reasons that I decided I did want to talk about it, and also the reasons that I'm considering it as well. But I suppose from the title of this, you've kind of guessed. I am considering taking TRT because the title is literally why I'm considering TRT. So we can get into that. Obviously, I'm only a young athlete, so I have all of these considerations to think about too, but we will get into them. Before I get into anything like that, if you are watching on YouTube, please do subscribe, because I currently have only 25 subscribers and I really want to get 50 so that I can buy myself a camera rather than trying to record off my phone and my laptop and everything else. And if you're currently listening on Spotify, please make sure you pause right now, rate me 5 stars, follow, subscribe, make sure you're getting notifications for my next podcast to come out, and if you really want to, then head over to my YouTube and also support me on that. Also, along with this, I'll just get through all of the marketing bits first. I do have some spaces open up for online coaching for April, which is always so much fun. So if you do want to kind of get on track, get with your goals, and get ready to get cracking on them for summer with me, the best coach in my humble opinion, then my links are below for that as well. Okay. Before we get into all of the actual depth of the podcast, I'm just going to fill you guys in on my week. I don't have too much to talk to you about. This is my second crack at recording this. You know what? I just didn't feel like I was bringing my good positive vibes last night because I was just tired. And when I I didn't even really listen to it back. I generally just do it and press play, plug it up. But I was like, this is my overthinking brain. I was like, now that I have 3 days, I'll listen to it back, and I should have just waited till Wednesday. Anyways, we're on Tuesday, so I'm still doing it way earlier than most, or than I generally would. But here we are, okay? Right. I'm going to tell you about my week. There's not too much to fill you in on. Last week, you'll know I was on a deload week. That was kind of structured alongside all of this, but we can chat about that. Last week, I was on a deload week. The last podcast I recorded was on Wednesday last week, and that was where I actually started going into my bit of a deload mentally be. Before then, I was blissfully happy with my deload, and then I started just panicking. I don't know why I panicked. There was no reason for me to panic. I just did. I was like, oh fuck, I'm on a deload, and I don't really want to be on a deload, and oh my god, my body's exhausted, and I want to eat everything around me, and it was just not good. And I didn't even really go off track, but I did go off track. I went off track, but my macros and calories were fine, but I went off track, you know what I mean? It didn't make me feel good because I wasn't holding myself to the standard that I hold myself to, which is a high standard. But anyways, it just shows my body definitely needed the rest. It definitely needed to chill the fuck out, which I'm over now. I'm over it, so it's fine. That was all really Wednesday to Friday. I was just working, just doing my usual bits. Friday, I got my lips done, which you will know if you've seen it on Instagram or on my YouTube. I got my lips done for the first 2 days. Genuinely, I was like, oh fuck, I have made a big mistake because I've never got my lips done before. So I was like, oh my god, they're huge. I don't like them at all. They're so big. I feel like I have duck lips. I also don't wear makeup ever, so it's kind of like, oh shit, this is really obvious. But now I'm like, actually, they're looking slay. I'm happy. I'm really happy with them, so that's good. And I also got my hair done, just blow dry on Saturday, just to spice up my life and make me feel good about myself again. And that was it. That was kind of my weekend. I went to play tennis with Kian's parents on Monday, which was nice. It was a bit of fun. I never played tennis. I was never a sporty kid growing up at all. Always picked last in PT and everything like that, or PE, whatever it was called. Always tried to get out of PE. I was always picked last, felt like shite. So I was never ever sporty. I literally played in hockey or a school sport on the C team /D team. And yeah, I just was not a sporty person. How times have changed. but I went to play tennis. It was actually a bit of crack. I was like, you know what? I think I'd put this into a weekly rotation. Now I don't have any time, so I won't. But I was like, this is actually a bit of crack. This is a bit of fun. And then we went and had a roast dinner at Kane's parents as well. I'm going to put up a little picture if I do manage to put this up on YouTube of what that looked like, because it was so nice. It was just chicken. It was so cute because Fiona, Kane's mom, knows that I don't really like lamb, so she like put aside a bit of chicken for me, so that was really nice. So chicken, cauliflower cheese, my fave, potatoes, roasties, carrots, parsnip, like, carrot, broccoli, and some stuffing. It was banging, and obviously a heap of gravy because I fucking love gravy. But yeah, that was it. That was my week, and now we are into Tuesday. I had one new client come on board last week, which is fun. So I was just setting her up while I was in work today. And yeah, that's basically been it, girls. That's been my week. I'm back smashing training. Actually, I have really bad DOMs today, which I kind of love. Like, I know that it's not actually productive to a good training session. It probably should mean that I'm under recovered somewhere. But I was like, you know what? Fuck, I love this shit. Because it means that, like, I'm back training properly, after a deload. But also I had a few 3 exercises changed in my program. These are going to laugh, but I've been on the same training program for 34 weeks. And the only thing we've changed is 3 exercises. And if you're telling me you need to train after 12 weeks, that is your proof that you don't. I've grown fucking a lot in 34 weeks, considering that I've only literally changed 3 exercises, and those aren't 3 new exercises. I just wanted double of the same 3 exercises I did, so I swapped out Smith machine squat for a pendulum squat. I swapped out a single leg press for a split squat, which I already do once a week. And then I can't remember what else I asked them to swap, but I asked them to swap something else as well. And that was it. That's all I've changed in 34 weeks. Now, when I do get leaner, we probably will change more because we'll be able to actually see what I need. But yeah, that's been it, girls. That's been my whole week so far. But let's get into the meat of things, okay? Let's get into the TRT conversation. Yeah, scary one to talk about, to be honest. I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know, like, I know it's only gonna go to the girls, but like, don't know how people are gonna take this. And honestly, I've kind of thought about it, and I'm like, I've grown a lot over the last few years. Do I actually care how people think about it or talk about it? No. And the reason that I do want to talk about this to you, first of all, is firstly because I don't feel like it's talked about enough, especially amongst females, both in terms of hormones, in terms of, let's say, being assisted, because essentially that's what it would bring me up to, but also in terms of just educationally, like, it's not talked about enough, right? And even for, it doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder or a natural or just a general population client or whatever it is, I still think there's a lot of things missing in the female health education that are surrounding around bloods, hormones, all of that good bits, and it's just overly focused on training and food. And look, realistically, if you're someone that's listening to my podcast, you are probably someone that is very, very much into training, interested in training, and interested in leveling up their physique and not just losing 2 to 3 kg, right? So yeah, I do want to educate you, first of all, but also I want to explain my reasoning, my thoughts, and just talk through it a little bit more, because I do know that even coaches, like male coaches, I'm going to say male coaches, but female coaches as well, but I was talking to a male coach in the gym that didn't really have a clue about what this all meant, and not in a bad way, but he coaches females as well, so I was like, you know what, like, I should probably just do a little something on this and talk about it, because obviously it is something that's not talked about enough and not known about enough within the fitness world, right? So to get into it, essentially this would bring me from a natural athlete to an assisted athlete, and we can get into that a little bit more as well into the podcast and also into future episodes if that is something that you guys would be interested in. But I'm going to go through like the reason I've decided to do this, and then I suppose the reason I'm telling you about it is because, look, I have seen there is like a lot of people on gear, okay? There's a lot of people on gear that you probably wouldn't even know are on gear. And even for me, sometimes I'll hear someone's on something and I'm like, what the fuck? I would never have guessed that. And there's a lot of people that think that I'm on stuff, and I'm not. I'm natural, right? And I'm proud to be natural right now, because I'm proud of the fucking work I've put in. I'm proud of this body that I have built naturally, because as a female athlete, girls, it's fucking hard. You're saying you don't want to get bulky, I promise you won't, right? Like, I promise you the amount of effort you have to go to build muscle, first of all, and then to reveal so much muscle that it's at that stage where people think you look bulky is crazy. Like, and it's an amount that people generally wouldn't go to. For reference, it takes years, right, first of all, and secondly, it takes so much intense dieting, no social occasions and stuff, to reveal enough of it that you would feel bulky. So don't stress about that, okay? But about getting bulky, that is. It's like, you know what the analogy is? It's like when someone drives a car for the first time and it's like, oh, I'm afraid to drive a car in case I end up in Formula 1 racing. Mm-mm. Long pause. You know what I'm saying? Like, Come on, you know? Oh, I'm afraid to cook pasta in case I end up like Gordon Ramsay. Girl, girl, you know what I'm saying? Like, do not stress about that. Just fucking lift the weights, because I promise you, you'll get the physique that you probably want. Or you'll spend ages trying anyways. But yeah, so I'm natural right now. I have been natural for the last number of years. Of course, I've never ever been not natural. And this would basically put me into that category. And I would not want, because maybe it's a vanity thing, probably is, maybe it's an ego thing, definitely is. But I don't want it to be taken away from me that I have been natural up until now. Okay, I've had loads of people be like, "Oh, are you on gear?" Or like, have you started taking gear? Or are you this? And that is like the natural next step in bodybuilding. And like, I don't want to say it's a natural next step. Of course, it's not a natural next step, but it is like the progression, right? Because as I said, a lot of girls are on it, especially in bodybuilding, and it's a competitive sport, it's an extreme sport, right? And it isn't something that should be taken lightly, it's something that should be taken very seriously, but a lot of coaches don't, and a lot of athletes don't, and especially with female athletes, because you don't know enough about it, and then people just kind of hop on without actually any sort of education, acknowledgement, or information around that, and that is not what I want to have. I want to educate you and give you a space to talk about it, and also like answer your questions, right? And like that will allow me as well to research it more and to kind of get more information for you on different things as well. So that's why I want to talk about it, and I also don't want it to be taken away from me, the fact that I've built what I have built naturally, if I do decide to go down this route. So up until today, up until at least the 7th of April and beyond, at least until next week, I am fully 100% natural, okay? I will come back to you when that is the case, that it is not true. Do I know that? Have I considered going not natural before? Yes, absolutely. I have considered this. I considered it literally when I was competing last year. It's always been something in my head of being like, if I am going to continue to compete, then realistically that is the step I am willing to make. However, I wanted to compete naturally first, 100%. I didn't even know if it was for me or if I'd enjoy it. The risks are plentiful, so I didn't want the risk to outweigh the benefits for me without actual consideration that I'm going to be in this for a long time, right? So is it something I've thought about before? Yes. Is it something I considered I would do right now? Probably not. But I'm not saying that I'm going to fully blow right now, right? And I have obviously talked to my own coach about what I'd be willing to do and what I would kind of like to do, because of course she would never push me to do anything, as a good coach shouldn't, but she would openly had that conversation with me of like what I would want to do, and it was me that brought it up to her, okay? Because let's base this off my bloods, right? And I've talked about this loads, girls. Go back and look at my old podcast on why I pulled my diet if you want to see why I have pulled my diet, because of my bloods, right? I got my bloods done last week, and I'm not gonna lie, I knew that this was gonna open this conversation, and this is kind of the reason I got my bloods done last week, off the back of previous bloods done from last year and then again from November. And I knew that this was gonna open this conversation, because that's why I went to get my bloods done, was to kind of set a baseline for myself, see what I'm actually working with when I've been a long time out of a diet, because realistically, yes, I had those 3 weeks of trying to diet, or 6 weeks of trying to diet, but I have had how many months out of diet? Almost 10 months out of a diet. Like, that's a long time, right? Especially for a female. I know it doesn't sound like a long time altogether, but like, how many diets have you been on in the last year or tried to diet? You know what I'm saying? And when I say I've been out of a diet, like, I haven't been even under fueling. Like, I go up to about 3,000-ish calories, right? So like, it's not like I'm not eating shit, right? So yeah, I knew that this was going to open a bigger conversation, and this is why I haven't fully decided yet, because I am waiting for those blood results to come back from this week before I fully decide what I'm going to do. But I just kind of thought this would be a nice time to talk about it prior to doing it, rather than just being like, I'm on it, you know what I mean? And yeah, so this is where I'm at. Maybe I could do an updated one if I do end up kind of starting TRT or anything like that, and I could do an updated of how I've been getting on with it. You guys let me know. I'm also aware that I don't want to influence people, but like, I think this is going to be quite like authentic. I think this is is it authentic? I'm talking crap. It is authentic, but I think it's going to be quite informative rather than influential. I'm hoping that's the vibe I'm going for. That's what I'm trying to do. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will be all good to talk about it. And I knew that it was going to open a bigger conversation, right? Because when, like, I've been pushing for a long time in terms of like dieting, in terms of training, in terms of managing my stress, in terms of trying to perform the best I can, and in terms of trying to look certain ways, right? And I knew that my body had given me feedback that wasn't to just try harder, hence why I pulled my diet the last time, but it was that something actually might need to change, right? And I wanted to understand what was actually going on. I think that's always something that you should consider when you're kind of looking at your bloods, looking at your hormones, and also considering, definitely when you're considering going assisted, okay? Because when you are looking at these things, it's not something that you can take lightly. It's not like a snap judgment, and it's also something that you have to consider is costly, okay? Because the actual assistance itself isn't costly, but you do need to get your bloods done every like 12 weeks if you want to do it really healthily, which is exactly what I want to do, right? So it is going to be costly, and that's something that I have to consider as well. And it's not something that can be or should be done impulsively, right? I want to understand what's actually going on. I want to lead from the front always with my coaching, with my physique, with my bodybuilding, everything like that. So I want to always make sure that I have the full picture before I go down and do anything that I'll regret, okay? Because I do know that I'm young as well, right? And I also realized, yeah, as I said, this is a conversation that more women kind of need to hear, right? Because there are so many women that are like training hard, they're eating well, and they're showing up consistently, but they still feel like flat or disconnected, or that they just don't fully feel like themselves, right? So what I want to talk about today is what testosterone actually does in women, what it means in terms of competing and everything like that, why female athletes can end up with lower testosterone or low androgen symptoms, how things like dieting, stress, and the pill feed into this, or more so, why I think that this has happened to me, or why I think that I might need TRT, okay? Or why I think I might benefit from TRT, I should say, rather than need. What TRT actually is and what it actually means, and how to know if it's something that maybe you should look into. But when I say you should look into it, I'm more so meaning in terms of your bloods, right? So want to get that from the get-go. I am, again, not influencing you to do anything. I just want this to be a safe space, an informative space, and somewhere you can come to kind of to know that there's a conversation there, right? So yeah, this is not a shortcut conversation. As I said, it's very much a health-focused conversation, and that's kind of what I want it to be about. Let's get the fuck into it. Stop yapping. Stop. I just want to give you all the I'm not a doctor speech first, right? But let's get into it. Let's start here, okay? Because this is where most people misunderstand it, and this is where I used to not understand it either. When someone told me they were on FemTest a few years ago, I was like, she's on gear. She's on gear. And that's not fully the case, right? Because testosterone isn't just a male hormone, even though people kind of think it is, but women actually produce testosterone too, right? And where testosterone plays a role is it's in your sex drive, so your libido, your mood, your energy, or drive for life, your confidence, your recovery, and even things like muscle retention and training output indirectly, okay? So when people brush it off like it doesn't matter for women, that's just not accurate at all, because it has so many effects on how it can operate for women, right? Think of it like this. First of all, sex is important, right? And that's probably one of my biggest symptoms. But anyways, sex drive is lowered, right? And then it even has a knock-on effect of like you being pregnant, because if you have no drive to have sex, you're gonna struggle, right? And if I'm being completely honest, and I've said this in my podcast before, I haven't had a drive to have sex in a long, long time. And that's not that didn't used to be the case, right? And also I do feel that I fatigue a lot quicker. My training output, although is good, I will like fail randomly at reps and stuff like that. Anyways, I won't get into the nitty-gritties too much. But yeah, it's just not accurate to say that it's not for women, or testosterone isn't important for women, because it absolutely is. And while it is not like the magic answer to people's problems, if you do feel tired, flat, unmotivated, and everything like that, that it doesn't automatically mean your testosterone is low, but it can be a symptom that you have lower testosterone, or that there's something just not hormonally working in tune, right? Because hormones don't work in isolation, they work as part of a system. But what I will say is this: when your hormonal environment is off, you'll probably feel it, right? And a lot of women probably do know the feeling when you're showing up, you're doing all the shit, and something just still feels off. And that's where this conversation can start, okay? So first of all, where I will start with this is what my bloods showed. So I got my bloods done for the very first time last April, okay? Last April, I was 6 weeks out from my competitions, and I got my bloods done, and my coach at that time was like, Kiva, it's time to get your bloods done. Well, basically, my body started failing on me loads, right? So my body started failing, my skin was breaking out, I obviously didn't have a period. I haven't had a period since 2023. And when I had that period, I had been on the pill since I was 17, right? So I had kind of periods up until I was about 16, 17, went on the pill, was on the pill for 5 years, came off the pill, when you are on the pill, we can get into this in another episode, but when you are on the pill, it is not a natural period, it is a hormonal bleed, right? So for an oral contraceptive or any contraceptive pill, you are inputting hormones into your body, whether that be estrogen, progesterone, or just estrogen or just progesterone. You are inputting hormones into your body. Your body is not operating on its own natural hormones. And then therefore, when you have a hormonal bleed, it's more like a withdrawal bleed. It's not your natural period or your natural menstrual cycle. And then when you come off the pill, you can have issues, which I've had obviously, with getting your period back. Okay. I came off the pill when I was 22. Was not into fitness at that stage. I know, crazy. I wasn't really into fitness. I was just getting into the gym, probably about 9 months into the gym at this stage, into starting in the gym ever. And I had kind of only just started getting into fitness, right? I think I just lost my first 6 kg and I was smooth sailing, you know? I was like, I can get the hang of this. I'm kind of enjoying this. And then came off the pill, never got my period. My doctor was like, no, Kiba, don't worry, 6 months, give it 6 months and your period will come back. 6 months passes, I'm getting into fitness, 6 months pass, no period. I'm going back to the doctor, yo, doctor, period's still not back. She was like, oh, as long as it comes 3 times in a year, you're fine. I probably should have questioned this more, right? But I didn't. I was like, doctors know best. Now I know that doctors do not in fact know best. Anyways, but she was like, 3 times a year and you'll be absolutely grand. 1 year passes, so now we're a year and a half down the line, no periods. She's like, oh, you still haven't got your period. Sometimes it just takes really long. And I'm kind of like, nah, girl, I don't know if I'm trusting that. But at this stage, I was starting my photo shoot prep. So I was like, right, well, it's actually kind of perfect for me not to have a period, because now that I don't have a period, I don't have any of these problems like feeling that low energy, feeling extra moody, feeling any of these hormonal things, right? I just was like, this is actually kind of nice. I feel like a boy, like I'm shredded too, you know? So did my photo shoot prep and then came off the back of the photo shoot prep, was like, right, realistically, anything I did there, my period might take longer, but look, it's not coming back anyways. It's been 2 years at this stage and it's not been back. And off I went and ran a marathon. Of course, caused myself more stress. And then off the back of my marathon, went straight into my bodybuilding prep. I was like, fuck it, I may as well run it. I'll start thinking about my period after the fact. Prep is going well until it's not. And I've never got my bloods done at this stage, so I don't know what my baseline is before this. And this is why I want to talk about it. I don't know what my baseline is before this. Then April comes around, my coach is like, Kiva, let's go, let's get your bloods done. We want to see where you are at in your bloods. Now, those bloods were terrible. Okay, they were terrible. The coach before that was my first like bodybuilding coach. I trusted him, and yeah, it was terrible. I ended up with being pre-diabetic. I ended up with like hypo, obviously. I ended up with, like, it was just really bad, girls. It was so bad. I was on a load of supplements. My kidney was in a bad place. My liver was in a bad place. And, like, I was a natural athlete. And he was basically running me like I was assisted. But I was pre-diabetic. My kidney was bad. My liver was bad. And my FSH and my LH, which are your two kind of hormones that you need for ovulation, were non-existent on the chart. Like, not even on the scales, right? And my SHBG, which is my sex hormone binding globulin, I hope I got that right, was very low, and my testosterone was very low. However, my thyroid was fine, or as fine as it can be during a prep, right? It was still low, but it was as fine as it could be during a prep. That is my new baseline, okay? But obviously, we're 6 weeks out from show, so of course it's going to be in a bad place. And then I get my bloods done 6 weeks post show to see kind of what the improvements are. Now, are there minor improvements? Yeah, but minor improvements from shit bloods are still pretty shit, right? So got my bloods done again. They weren't great. They were slightly better. My thyroid was still in a bad place. My FSH and LH was still off the chart low. My SHBG was still low. My liver and kidney had improved. My iron had improved. I was no longer diabetic or pre-diabetic, so that was good. So there was improvements in there, but my hormonal panel was still very, very, very bad. Okay, and then took loads of months off, obviously dieting, and in November got my bloods done again, and we see that my testosterone is still very, very low, along with my SHBG. Okay, so your SHBG, I think the range is something like 24. I have to look this up, and I'm not looking it up right now. But my SHBG, the range is somewhere between 24 and 112, I would say, and mine is 26, right? So like quite low, right? On the lower side anyways. Testosterone for females is, the range is like between 0.4 and 1.7 nanomil per liter. I think I got that right. And mine is less than 0.4, okay? They don't have a measure for less than 0.4, they just have less than 0.4. So it's just me, like I could have 0.01 or I could have 0.39, right? Like I don't know. So that's why I wanted to get my bloods done again. Obviously, that was a good few months off post prep, but I want to get my bloods done again because I want to be 100% certain before I fuck with my hormones. I would have no problem, and I've talked about this with my coach, I would have no problem going possibly assisted other ways. However, I've not done that yet because I really do know that I have to think about it a lot. But I don't want to fuck with my hormones, and she wouldn't want to fuck with my hormones if my hormones don't need to be fucked with, right? Because I like looking like a girl. I am a girl. My division wants me to look like a girl. Like, wellness and bikini is a feminine division. I know that in the future, when I'm 35 and retire from the sport, or 30 and retire from the sport, I don't want to look like a man. I want to look like a girl. Also, Cian is straight, so like, he didn't sign up to be gay, you know what I mean? And so I know that I don't want to mess with my hormones if I don't need to, okay? So yeah, that's where I'm at bloods wise. I know that was a very long conversation, but hopefully some parts of it were interesting for you, or you took some insight out of that. But basically my hormones are still in quite a bad place, okay? And why that can happen, especially why it can happen to female athletes, let's chat about that. So this is a part that I suppose needs a bit more attention and hasn't really been talked about a lot, and it's way more common than people like to admit, okay? And I think it is coming up more and more now, and especially with people not having their periods and not having healthy cycles and also getting more into fitness, I think it will be talked about a lot more. But right now I do think that doctors, especially in Ireland, are slow with female health. But a lot of female athletes are living in an environment that suppresses their physiology, right? If we think about it, we're in long periods in calorie deficit, especially if you're looking at natural athletes, natural female athletes, you are going to suppress your hormones when you're in that long periods of calorie deficit. And a lot of female athletes keep going and prepping year on year on year, and therefore you are in this long haul suppression, okay? Then you also have your high training volume, your daily steps, your added cardio, your pressure to kind of stay in shape or to diet, or even when you're chronically underfueling yourself, girls, if you've never ever gone into a gaining phase or done a structured muscle building phase, your recovery is a bit poorer and you have high stress, right? Yes, these are all really good things to have, but your body doesn't know what's good or like what's needed to stay in shape and what's just general stress as well. Like your body just sees everything as stress, right? And one of the biggest drivers here is low energy availability, which basically means that there isn't enough energy left over to support normal bodily function, right? And that's when you are chronically underfueled. You are not going to have a good hormonal working functioning system, okay? Because your body adapts to this, right? And one of the first symptoms that gets impacted in women is your hormonal function, because your body is trying to keep you safe and it shuts off anything it doesn't see as necessary. So that's why when you're in an intense photo shoot prep or when you're in a competition prep, of course you want to be the one or two people that don't lose their period, but there is a lot of people that the further down into it you go, the more likely you are to lose your period or to lose these kind of normal healthy functions. Now, generally they will return quicker, okay? For most girls, and I'm not going to give you an exact number, but for most girls you see anywhere between like 3 months to 9 months to a year that these systems all return healthy, functioning, normal. However, I now have what's called long-term hypothalamic amenorrhea, okay? Which is basically long-term not having my period, right? Amenorrhea is when you don't have a cycle for 3 months. Hypothalamic amenorrhea is when you haven't had a period for a lot longer than 3 months, i.e. me, because it's been 3 years, okay? I'm special. I'm literally so special. But yeah, that's when you start seeing, right, your cycle disruption. You no longer have a functioning hormonal period, your lower libido, so your lower sex drive, your lower energy throughout the day, your poor recovery, your mood changes, you're more so like isolating yourself socially, and you might feel a bit flat or disconnected, right? Not wanting to spend time with people you love. And then when we layer stress on top of that, like training stress, dieting stress, and even just life stress, right? Your body doesn't separate them. It just sees stress as stress. And it's going to shut off what it doesn't need, okay? Now, to add an extra layer to this, because obviously, yes, I have all this stuff, but again, as I said, I'm special, girls. Something that's really important to say here, because I feel that this is part of my situation, and I feel that this is a big reason that I have lost my period, is that not all of this exists in isolation, okay? For me, I was also on the pill for 5 years, right? And the pill alters your hormonal environment, as I said at the start. And the pill, what it does, it suppresses your natural hormone production, right? Including your testosterone. And it increases your SHBG because bonds it binds to your testosterone and makes it less available in your body. Okay, so your SHBG and your testosterone are made less available in your body, but you increase your SHBG and then reduces your testosterone. And then, obviously, when you come off the pill, you are no longer relying on these inserted hormones and are in fact hoping that your body switches back on its own functioning system. And when you compound that with like fitness and everything else, you can see where this is going, right? You can see that there's a lot of layers to this story. So now you've got your long periods of dieting, your high training stress, your life stress, and the pill on top of that, right? And then we start to wonder why things are off. As if it's not fairly obvious, okay? And for me personally, one of the biggest red flags is that my period never came back, right? And that's something that I'm no longer willing to ignore because it's not healthy, yeah? It's not healthy. And your cycle is one of the clearest indicators of hormonal health as a woman, but also of just functioning normal health. And if I do want to get pregnant in the future, obviously I'm going to need a healthy functioning period to do that. So you cannot really ignore it as a variable. And I'm not saying coming off the pill, let's say, fixes it. And I'm not saying the pill caused everything. But what I am saying is it's definitely not the solution. And even when I went to a doctor there, I was like saying to her about this, and I was like, that I've having a period or whatever, and she's like, well, the pill can regulate it. The pill doesn't regulate it. Like, the pill just gives it a reason to have an excuse to be like, oh well, now you're had this regulated period, but it's not your period, it's a withdrawal bleed. Make it make sense, And so it's like, no. Basically, I was like, no, I'm not going on the pill again, because what does that do then when I come off the pill? And she's like, oh well, we can figure that out when you come off the pill. Girl, are you fucking crazy? No, I don't want to figure that out when I go off the pill. That's the situation I'm in now. You're just delaying the situation another few years in the hope that you're retired. But anyways, I don't like my doctor, if you can't tell. But yeah, so I was like, that's not what's happening, right? And it's the same with if you're on the pill, you're going to have changed your natural balance, and you're changing your natural baseline if you do get your bloods or if you do get anything like that. And it's the same way if your doctor is telling you that, like, let's say go on the pill for your skin, go on the pill for your digestion, go on the pill for your acne, whatever it is, like, they are inserting hormones into your body to mask a problem that you have. And what happens when those hormones are reduced or removed? Just a thought process. What happens then? Because what happens then, I will tell you, is that the same things come back because you have a hormonal imbalance, girl, and you need to sort out the hormonal imbalance, the root of the problem, before you sort out the put a plaster on it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why doctors do that. And I think it's just lazy doctoring, like, to be honest. Why are you putting a plaster on a problem? Just sort the problem. Try to find the cause. Yes, it costs more. It probably does require more work to do. But, like, would you not want that? Like, I don't understand why doctors don't want that. I understand why girls are just listening to their doctors, but I don't understand why a doctor wouldn't want to actually help you out. It just doesn't make any sense for me. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I could rant all day about doctors, but yeah, so that's where basically I'm at right now, is that I know the pill's not going to sort my problem out. I know that it's going to mask my problem. And look, another thing, sorry, in saying that with masking problems, is a lot of doctors will be like, reduce your stress, reduce your training, take time off training, take 6 months off training. And while I understand that, right, to a capacity of you are reducing your stress load, for me, training is my outlet. For me, training is the best thing I do. Training is fun. Training calms my mind. I enjoy training. I love training. My whole life is centered around fitness and training now. So it's like, if I was to reduce my training, right, if I was to pull back on my training, I would only be reducing it for that time period where my period then hopefully came back. And then I would be bringing that training back because that's what I love. So you're not actually managing the stress level. You're not managing the symptoms. You're just putting a plaster on the problem in the hope that then by the time I take a break, it comes back. And then what happens? Do I not go back to training ever again? Do I maintain that load? Like, that's not a load I want to maintain. So it's like, right, how do I manage this rather than just remove the things I enjoy? Ugh, plasters, girls, plasters on problems. We don't want plasters. We want solutions, okay? Yeah, so basically that's where I'm at in terms of my own body and in terms of my own story of why I think that I'm here, okay? And look, as I said, I've never said that I wouldn't not be natural, and that's the thing as well. I'm kind of like, I knew that was my next step. I haven't fully 100% decided I'm going there, but I knew that that was probably my next step because I am someone that's competitive, and I also want to be hormonally functioning, and I actually think that this would aid me in being hormonally functioning, but I can get into that now, right? So this is where the TRT conversation needs to be handled, I guess, properly, and come in and talk about it properly, because if you don't understand the full picture, what we end up doing is fixing the symptom, i.e. like the small problem, instead of the actual cause. And that's why it's taken me so long to fully consider this, think about it. Like, if you think about it, I started thinking about kind of possibly going assisted last April 2025. Now we are in April 2026. You know what I mean? That's been a year of thinking this, a year of more of living the lifestyle. And like I've been in this lifestyle a long time, right? But let's talk about like what TRT looks like and what kind of it does and why it happens and why you need to be considering every aspect, right? Because if we are just looking at that low mood, low energy, and if we're just looking at bloods from in the middle of prep, you might think, oh yeah, like testosterone's the answer. When in reality, it was just the fact that we are in that heavy diet cycle, or in reality, it's just the fact that, we haven't had enough time away from a diet, or we have too much stress at that momentary time. We want to get as broad a landscape as we can to actually make an informed decision. And for me, those bloods have spammed over the last April, June, November, and now these bloods again, right? Like over the last year. And if these bloods come back and my testosterone's at a healthy level, there's no reason for me to take testosterone. But let's get into it, right? TRT, what it stands for is Testosterone Replacement Therapy, and medically, the goal is not to enhance your natural levels, okay? It's to bring them up to a healthy level, which is exactly what I would be using it for. So before we get into it, testosterone itself, for bodybuilders, in men, generally they use it as a loaded up dose to enhance their natural level, to become superhuman, and to become supernatural, all that kind of vibe, where they are using it to get swole, get huge, right? For females, it's called femtest, hence what I said earlier, where you're taking it at a very, very, basically micro-dosing it at way smaller doses. And the reason that you're doing this is to get it back to a healthy level. Now, of course, some females use it to become superhuman and supernatural as well, get up to those higher ranges. However, obviously, when we look at testosterone as a long-term thing, and even this, so my coach is saying it, the most, like, I suppose, studied aspect we have of it is females that are biologically females that are looking to be male, that are transgender and transitioning to males, obviously take testosterone, right? And they are now have male features. That is not what I want. I don't want to be a man. Keane's not gay. I'm not a boy, right? I'm a girl. So I don't want these things. I don't want to be a man. So what I would be doing is getting my bloods, if they are below 0.4 still in testosterone, I would be aiming to bring them up between 0.4 and that 1.7 range, right? Back to a healthy range. So ideally finding my 1.1 placement and staying there, right? And so bring it back to a normal physiological range when there is a genuine need would be the medical goal of it, okay? And that's where I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to be superhuman with this. That could be an aim I have with something else if I do take other things, which I will talk to you about if I do. However, the goal of TRT is to just bring my stuff back up to a physiological healthy range, and hopefully with that I will actually have hormones that are working again, that are functioning again, and actually get a better response for my body overall, okay? But where I want to stay very clear on this is it is not something that you should jump into because like you're tired or you've been dieting for a long time or your motivation is low, because those things can come from multiple factors. And in women, it's not an area where we have endless strong evidence for broad use. And it's also not something that we should casually use, right? And it's not something that anyone should casually use. But then when I'm considering it, and look, me and Kim talk about this a lot as well, when I'm considering it, and girls, if you've been listening to me for a long time, but also if you've just known me for a long time, you'll know like college was wild. No, but everyone's college was wild. You know what I mean? Like I used to have a lot of fun. So, and I don't regret those days. I don't really do those days anymore. But it's like, okay, if I was to do this at a healthy level where I'm getting my blood done every 12 weeks, that's not what I was doing in college at all. And I was doing probably a lot more harm to my body because I wasn't into fitness, I wasn't eating healthy, I was eating like shit, I was drinking all the time, and I was doing all those other bits. So it's like, this is actually probably, I don't want to say it's a healthier thing to do because it's not healthy, I understand. Well, I suppose actually this is a very much health perspective aspect, right? This is a very much health focused reason I'm doing this for. But I'm also aware that it is inserting something into your body that's not naturally found. It's naturally found in your body, but my input of it isn't naturally there right now, right? So it is something still that is foreign to my body currently. However, in another female, they would obviously be operating with more testosterone than I am, right? So I suppose that's where we first start with this, right? But it's not casual use, but if you compete, this matters even more. And this is kind of where I want to talk about it, because exogenous testosterone is not allowed in tested sports, so I would no longer become natural. And I do think that if this was just down to a health decision, if this was just down to a decision of like, okay, right, this will actually improve my health, it will improve my sex drive, it'll improve my hormones, it may possibly help with my period returning, it may possibly help with my body feeling safer. I think that for these reasons alone, I'd probably consider and be like, yeah, that sounds perfect, I'll do it. And I actually have looked into this down a medical route as well, with like gel packs and stuff like that, because testosterone, that's the only way it can be given to females. I looked at it as if people were in post-menopause, and the hormones you're given obviously within menopause, but generally that is estrogen, progesterone, and you can get, it's called off-counter, off-shelf prescriptions for testosterone, but it comes in testosterone gel packs, and it just seems a bit funky. Basically, you can't touch anything else off the testosterone gel pack. It seems very complicated and confusing. So I don't think I would go down that route. I'm not 100% sure yet. As I said, and this is all very much stuff that I'm just still considering myself, hence why I'm considering TRT, but I am also heavily considering it. And it is likely to be the case that I will start it. However, it does mostly depend on my bloods this week, and then also any further decisions and further considerations I make in myself, right? But as I said, I would consider it, I think, generally anyways, if it was just a health decision. But I also have to think about competition-wise that decision, because it would take me out of a natural competitor, right? And it would take me out of a natural competitor, but not in the sense that I would be supernatural or superhuman. I would actually just be operating off what most other females are operating off, which makes it kind of difficult, okay? But I do feel that this should be an honest conversation, or should be an open conversation, and I don't want to go into a conversation not knowing or lying to people, because I do feel like, obviously I know it's not lying to people, I'm just not telling you the whole truth if I do it and don't say it. But I also, that's not me, right? I'm for the girls, you know? So I want the girls to know, and I want you to not feel like, well, what the fuck? And I also want you to know that, remember, I worked fucking hard for this so far, so until you get to my level, don't even, you know? And no jokes. Obviously, as you please, it's up to you, but do talk to someone about it before you do. Please don't just do whatever you want to do without talking to people, because there are so many girls that will help you, like, stay informed and make good decisions, and, you know, give you the full round advice about it, okay? But I do feel that women deserve honesty, like, not shortcuts, not like kind of hype around this stuff, or like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever, without having a fully informed, consensual decision, okay? Because safe use is important, girls. Same as safe sex. Yeah, but you shouldn't pretend it doesn't exist either. And I think that that's kind of a big thing that's not talked about in the industry, because people are nervous about it. I'm also super aware that, like, I have a law degree, so I could be kissing this goodbye if I do it. So I don't know yet, and that's why I'm kind of considering things very, very broadly, because I don't know yet what my story is or what my decisions are. In saying that, of course, if you want to be coached and help me say goodbye to that degree, links below. But yeah, anyways, as I said, how do I know about all this? Why do I know that I should do this, or why do I know that this would be something beneficial to me? It's because I am not a silly gal, and especially if you are competing, obviously I know if you're general population, it's not always as important, but I'm not a silly gal, and I decided to get my bloods done when my coach told me to, and I've consistently got my bloods done since then, right? If your symptoms are there, if there are symptoms there that you have low testosterone, or that your hormones are off and they are persistent and not improving, things like low sex drive, things like ongoing fatigue, things like poor recovery, disrupted menstrual cycle, low mood, or just generally feeling like something is off, then just get your bloods done, girl. And if you're in Ireland, right, I know that it can be expensive. There are certain blood clinics that are like 150 to 200 quid. However, if you go to your GP, they will generally do your bloods as well. And like for me, if I go to my GP, my bloods are like €70. That's not that bad. You know what I mean? 70 quid. Like, come on, you'd spend that on a new outfit. You'd probably spend that on your hair. You'd probably spend that on a meal out. Like, you know what I mean? It's literally, what, a bottle of vodka and a bit? It's a bottle of vodka and a fucking McDonald's. Get your bloods done. And it's only like once. You'll have a baseline if you just go and get it done once, and then from there you'll be able to consider things after. And that's not even considering like going on anything. It's just to give you a good baseline before you diet, so that you'll know if you've pushed the diet too far or what you need to come back to after the fact. It just gives you that fuller picture, right? So if you are speaking to your GP, or just generally to a professional, what you want to do is tell them your symptoms, your history, your diet history, your backstory, especially your period history, although most doctors don't listen. But what I want to tell you what you should look for, because I have had people text me being like, what do I look for when I'm getting my bloods done? And it's not just testosterone, right? I would get, if it's your first time getting it done, ask for like your full bloods, but ask for a hormonal panel as well, okay? Because a hormonal panel is usually subsidiary to this, like it usually costs more, but this is going to tell you where your period is at, and also where your testosterone is. And what a hormonal kind of panel generally covers is your total testosterone, your SHBG, your estrogen, your LH and FSH. And then you want to get your thyroid done, which should be in your full bloods, your iron levels, and your vitamin levels, right? And this will tell you more of a full picture story of where you're at. But remember, getting this done once isn't going to give you the whole full picture. You need to get this done over a span of time, a span of different phases to get a better picture, okay? But yeah, this is where I'm at right now. I wanted this to be a bit more chatty, yappy, educational, and informational. I do really want to kind of, I feel like I do always come on and have a yap, and I love having a yap, but I feel like people don't think I'm smart or something. I feel like I had to show you guys that I'm actually smarter than I look. No, but I just wanted to like actually talk about this because I know that obviously on a real level, like I am considering it, and I don't want you to think that if I do it that I'm lying to you guys, and I also don't want you to think that, you know, if you're experiencing any of these symptoms that it's normal, right? And I'm not saying that hopping on anything is the answer, but definitely get your bloods done. Like I think I've talked about this a lot over the last while. It's just that would be my biggest thing, is just get your bloods done and see where you're at, and then you'll have more of a baseline to understand. Maybe it is just coming out of a diet, maybe you have been underfueled for a long time, maybe it is reducing your stress, maybe it is these things. But this is where I'm at right now. I've kind of done all of these things and I still haven't really getting anywhere with it, and I do feel that my testosterone is low, and I do feel like most of it has come from the pill, right? So where I'm at right now is this. I've got my bloods done, I've got the symptoms, I've had the symptoms for a very long time. I feel that I am looking at quite a full picture. I'm not just looking at one hormone, and I'm not just looking at one quick fix, because this isn't a shortcut conversation, and I will wait until I get my bloods back this week, which should be coming back on Thursday or Friday. So I will have more of an answer then on what I actually want to do. So maybe I'll give you guys a little update next week or the week after. Let me know. Is that what you want? Drop in the comments if that's what you want me to do. But you don't win by ignoring your body, right? And you don't compete long term by ignoring your body either. And I feel that this is a health conversation that is missing for a lot of women. And I want to be that space. I want to be the space that you guys can come to, feel comfortable chatting to, and build your best physique without running yourself into the ground. Because I've been there, and I don't want any girl to have to go there, right? I don't want you to have to feel like you have to run into fucking the grave, dig yourself 3 foot under, climb out of that grave to get a good body. I want you to feel fucking slay, sexy, and get up on that stage and feel fucking good. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is actually listen and give yourself that time to actually listen. And I've done that, and this is kind of the next step in my head of what I am considering based off my healthier bloods, which still show a lot of hormonal suppression, okay? I coach women on this as well because obviously I live it, and this is another thing, like I always do want to lead from the front, and yeah, this is basically where I'm at, girls. So I guess I'll update you guys soon. And that's all my thoughts on it. If anyone does have any questions or anything like that, of course, drop them below. Send me over a text. Let me know if you do have any thoughts or any questions or anything else you'd like me to chat about on the pod. I think that kind of wraps everything up I have to talk about today. I know this was quite a long one, so I'm sorry about that. But as I said, I will leave all my links below. If you have any questions at all, or just like more information on anything, or just like me to chat about anything else, drop it below. Let me know. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate me 5 stars. Maybe don't share this one to your story. Maybe do share this one to your story. I don't know. If you found it useful, maybe share it to your story. Share it with your friend. But yeah, help me get 50 subscribers on YouTube, and come back next week where I might talk you through kind of what my plan is and do another episode. Okay, love you. Bye.